Do you know what happens when you don't pay the bank?
They charge you interest,
And then they eventually
take your stuff.
foreclose.
Yep.
You know what happens when you don't pay your staff?
They quit.
And then eventually they
Sue you.
Do you know what happens when you don't pay your 941 tax withholdings to the IRS?
They put you in prison.
They put you in jail. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's like, what else am I going to do? Like, I literally have dozens of these kinds of stories.
You're listening to the Profit First for Lawyers podcast, the official companion show to the book Profit First for Lawyers by RJon Robins. Now, this podcast is for you if you want to bring home more profit while working less hours in the office, spending more time with your loved ones doing the things you actually want to do, and turning your office into a lean, mean, profit-breathing machine. So if you're tired of working for your law firm instead of your law firm working for you, stay tuned for some really practical insights that will get you the results you've always wanted. It's time to put your BS aside for the next few minutes and put yourself, your family, your firm, and your profit first. Welcome back to another episode of the Profit First for Lawyers podcast. I'm your host, Carly, and today we're asking a question that I really hope you'll ponder. So I'm asking your permission to have kind of an uncomfortable conversation with you, one that will set you up for even greater success and personal and professional satisfaction than you may have ever thought possible. Today, we're talking about ego, and I'm going to share a cautionary tale that RJon told me while we were in the studio together recording the Profit First for Lawyers audiobook. Now, this is a story that is not in the book. This is exclusive audiobook content, so I do hope you enjoy the sneak peek. By the end of this episode, you'll be better aware of when you're making decisions based on facts and knowledge, or when your ego might be at the forefront sabotaging you unknowingly. When RJon and I were in the studio, he frequently went off script to expound on the points that he makes in the book, and it was a really fun and illuminating time for me, and is also a reason why you should be especially excited for when the audiobook is released, because it has so much bonus content. But I digress. On this particular day, we were talking about the cash flow projection report that you might remember Sherry Mansell speaking about in episode 45, which of course we have linked in our show notes for you below if you want a refresher. Now, if you've recently watched Sherry's episode, then the beginning of this clip is going to sound pretty familiar. However, I wanted to continue rolling the tape on this particular moment because RJon brought up a really interesting story that caught my attention. And we ended up having a dialogue about what happens when you are so scared to hear bad news that you imitate an ostrich and bury your head in the sand. This was a powerful illustration. It's also a really funny and entertaining, in my opinion at least. It's also a really funny and entertaining clip that shows a side of RJon that you probably haven't seen yet. Let's roll the clip.
Let me take a moment here to just say a word about cash flow versus profitability. I remember the owner of a multi-million-dollar law firm who had positive cash flow. Yay! Unfortunately, the law firm was slowly going out of business because it was losing about $100,000 each month, and the owner didn't even know it. Remember, cash flow is a measure of how much cash comes in and how much cash goes out. The seven-figure law firm owner who was in my office kept insisting, my law firm is profitable because all my bills are getting paid, and after all, I'm getting my salary too. But what was really happening was that the law firm's administrator and bookkeeper had the firm incurring liabilities all over the place in order to maintain positive cash flow. Remember, cash flow is just cash coming into the firm, as in from debt. The firm was bringing in cash from its line of credit. It was collecting flat fees from clients and incurring liabilities to deliver the work later. Just take a moment to understand this. Cash is coming in, cash is coming in, cash is coming in. Some of the cash is coming in from clients who are prepaying a flat fee for work that the firm won't have to incur any cost to deliver for weeks or months later on down the road. And some of the cash in this particular case was also coming in from debt, drawing down the line of credit. So yeah, there was plenty of cash coming in. And no, there wasn't a lot of cash coming out because the work kept getting postponed and postponed and postponed. And so the firm never incurred the cost to deliver the work. Now, if you look at the balance sheet, you would have seen the picture coming together very, very clearly, and it was very, very ugly. But this lawyer wasn't looking at his balance sheet. He was just looking himself in the mirror and congratulating himself for being the owner of this multi-million-dollar law firm. And of course, it must be profitable because after all the bills are getting paid and I'm getting paid. But he didn't understand that the firm was literally being gutted by the administrator and the bookkeeper. So the firm was reducing cash disbursements and simply booking liabilities to staff for earned bonuses and other inevitable expenses that would come due.
Can I ask a question real quick? How did this guy not know? Like, how did they not?
I thought you were going to ask a different question.
Oh, what question did you think I was going to ask?
I thought you were going to ask, did he fire us when we made him see the truth?
Well, my question was going to be, did he fire them when you showed him the truth?
No, of course he didn't fire them when we showed him the truth. He fired us when we showed him the truth.
Is he in business today?
He's keeping it afloat. He's keeping the plates in the air. Last I heard. You don't even want to know why he fired us instead of his administrator and his horrible bookkeeper?
I mean, I definitely would like to know.
Then why didn't you ask?
Let me ask that question instead of assuming that I know the answer to that.
What do you assume to be the answer?
I assume that the answer was that he was so scared by the information you were telling him that he would rather stay in the delusion that everything was fine rather than actually looking at the reports that you were telling him to look at to verify the information you were telling him.
That, and we saw him with his clothes off. Figuratively, not literally.
The emperor had no clothes.
The emperor had no clothes. And he liked to be seen by everyone as a hotshot. And we certainly were not going to tell anyone that he wasn't a hotshot. And no one has any idea who I'm talking about. And I promise you, anyone who guesses who they think I'm talking about based on this conversation, they're guessing wrong, because I literally have like a dozen examples exactly like this of different people who have fired me over the years for almost exactly the same fact pattern. I have another lawyer who fired me once because of the same fact pattern, except in that case, his legal administrator was, oh God, this is so bad. She was giving him his 941 tax withholding forms. As the employer, you withhold payroll taxes. Mm-hmm. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then you give those payroll taxes to the IRS and you report it on a form called the 941. He would sign the 941. She would take the 941 and she would stick it in her desk drawer, not file it with the IRS, and then tell him, oh yeah, we got plenty of money, boss. We got plenty of money. What do you want to do? Oh, you want to do that? Yeah, we can do that. Oh, you want to do this? Oh yeah, you could do this. You can do whatever you want. We got plenty of money, boss. When we finally figured it out, what was going on, he was like $800,000 in the hole in 941 withholdings and had to sell a piece of property that had been in his family for generations to catch up. Because you know what happens when you don't pay the bank?
They charge you interest.
And then they eventually
take your stuff.
Foreclose.
Yep.
You know what happens when you don't pay your staff?
They quit.
And then eventually they
sue you.
Do you know what happens when you don't pay your 941 tax withholdings to the IRS?
They put you in prison.
They put you in jail. Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's like, what else am I going to do? Like, I literally have dozens of these kinds of stories. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrows. I can't make this stuff up.
While that was playing, I was literally laughing in my chair as hard as I had when I first heard it in the studio with him, right? It was entertaining, I promised. But as fun as that clip was, I don't want to take away from the message that RJon was trying to share, because it is a sobering thought, right? RJon has been fired by many law firm owners who, when faced with the stark reality of their situations, chose to ignore the very real evidence, throw RJon out of their proverbial offices, and continue pretending like there was nothing wrong. And we can't, or I guess at least we shouldn't, ignore reality in favor of a more desirable fairy tale. The numbers are the numbers are the numbers. That's fact. And it might be a scary fact, but again, looking back at Sherry's episode, it is never too late to course correct and make things better. But you can't make anything better if you don't know the truth. Now, I have one more short clip for you with RJon giving us the very important definition of the word truth and the danger of ignoring it. Let's roll it.
What is truth? Truth is not in the eye of the beholder. Truth is not a matter of opinion. Truth is reality. Reality is truth. Can we all agree with that? Yes? Truth is reality. Reality is truth. Truth does not depend on us to approve of it. Does truth depend on us to approve of it? No. Truth doesn't depend on us to like it. Truth doesn't depend on us to agree with it. Truth is what truth is. It is just reality. You can embrace it. You can accept it. You can make it work for you, or you can try to ignore it and evade it, but eventually it will catch up and eat you alive.
You can embrace it, or you can ignore it. But if you don't acknowledge it, it will eat you alive. So, how can you avoid falling into the same trap? Well, here are just a few tips. Number one, always rely on your data. Make sure that your decisions are based on solid data and not just gut feelings. Trust the numbers, even if they tell you something you probably don't want to hear. All right, number two, seek objective opinions. Sometimes we're just frankly too close to a situation to see it clearly. So, getting input from experts that you trust who can provide an unbiased perspective is intensely valuable. And three, check your ego at the door. Remember that your goal is to make the best decision for your business and not to prove that you're always right. It is okay to admit mistakes and take corrective action. And recognizing when your ego is leading you is the first step to making better decisions. And it's not easy. I don't want to come across and say that it's easy, but it is necessary for the health and the success of your business. And that's what we've got for you today, folks. And thanks for spending some of your time with me. And if you found this episode valuable, here are just a few things that you can do to take action today. Number one, visit our page at profitfirstforlawyers.com/action to download our free resources, which I have curated just for you. And two, make sure that you snag your copy of RJon's book, Profit First for Lawyers, wherever you usually buy your books. And three, leave this podcast a 5-star review to help us be discovered by even more law firm owners just like you. And stay tuned next time as we share one of my favorite book resources in a whole new way that will have you getting excited about an important financial report that is often overlooked and could lead to your law firm working for free if you're unaware. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Don't miss it. We'll see you there. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Profit First for Lawyers. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, tell a friend. And visit profitfirstforlawyers.com/action to download the resources that are going to help you put these concepts to work for your law firm. Your future self will thank you for it, and we will see you next time.